Hey guys, Latios here. There's been some talk lately in the competitive community that the Kensa shot is the best of the three splatter shots in the current meta, and I just wanted to share my thoughts on this subject because I don't necessarily agree with the notion that K-shot is a better pick than the T-Tech. As a T-Tech main and someone who plays K-shot on certain maps, I felt like I'd be able to give a decent opinion on each of these weapons. All these opinions are mine, and I'm not saying that all my ideas are correct. This is just my way of looking at things and how I feel based on my own experience. I will primarily be comparing the K-shot to the T-Tech and not the V-shot because I'm not as familiar with the V-shot and I don't think the V-shot is as good as either of those anyway. First off, let's look at the sub-weapons. The T-Tech has Splat Bomb, while the Kensa shot has the Suction Bomb. One of the reasons people have been saying the K-shot is good is because of the recent buff to the Suction Bomb, which increased the damage the Suction Bomb does from 180 to 220. This means that compared to the Splat Bomb, the Suction Bomb deals more damage to Brella and Baller, which are both pretty common in this meta. I tested out how much of a difference this made, and I found that it only makes a difference of a few shots with the main weapon, which is only a fraction of a second for the splatter shot. The other things that Suction Bomb has over the Splat Bomb is that you can stick it to walls, which may allow you to hide bombs on the sides of walls and get surprise picks on enemies, and it also paints a bit more than Splat Bomb, allowing you to build special a bit faster with suctions than Splat Bombs. However, none of these advantages actually mean that the Suction Bomb is better than the Splat Bomb. The Splat Bomb does something that no other sum in the game can do, which is to provide an immediate threat of death to the enemy that forces them to move away from the bomb quickly. Because Suction Bomb takes so much longer to explode than a Splat Bomb, it doesn't pose an immediate threat to the enemy, and they can hang around for a period of time before having to leave the area. There are many situations where an enemy threw a Suction Bomb in my feet during a 1v1, and I had enough time to secure the kill on the enemy and get away before the bomb dealt any damage at all. Another argument people make about the Suction Bomb is that it does a better job at zoning than the Splat Bomb because of the fact that it sticks around longer before going off. But as I mentioned before, it doesn't force the enemy to move right away, so the effective time it zones the enemy out is no more than that of a Splat Bomb. You could even argue that the Splat Bomb is better at zoning because it forces an immediate reaction, while a Suction Bomb gives the enemy some leeway to decide when they're going to move. On an aggressive main weapon like the Splatter Shot, the Splat Bomb's immediate pressure is perfect for forcing enemies out of position and allows it to flesh out longer range weapons more effectively than a Suction Bomb. For certain weapons like Slosher, Machine, and mid-range shooters like the K-Pro, you can force them to approach you by throwing a bomb at their feet behind them, which forces them to go forwards right into your effective range, where the Splatter Shot has almost unrivaled kill power. Again, Suction Bomb can't do this because it takes so much longer to explode. In general, the Splat Bomb is just a much better component on an aggressive kit, while Suctions are better suited for painting or slower paced zoning, which suits weapons like the NZAP or H3 better than more aggressive weapons. Moving on to the specials, it's a bit hard to compare Inkjet and missiles directly because they're not the same type of special, but that right there is part of the problem. The Splatter Shot as a main weapon is relatively short ranged with a very fast kill time, meaning it wants to be very aggressive and get up close to the enemy team. Tenta missiles require you to be backed up away from the fight for a period of time in order to safely use them. And there's a good chance that you won't even be able to follow up on your own missiles, because any enemy that's close enough for you to do that is probably going to kill you anyway for using missiles so close to them. Missiles also have very limited kill potential because they're the most telegraphed special in the game, and in the case of the Kensa shot, you can't capitalize on your own missiles because of your lack of range. Missiles on a Splatter Shot means taking one of the best aggressive main weapons in the game and forcing it off the front line where it is strong in order to use a special that doesn't pose a real threat at killing the enemy players. It is true that your teammates can follow up on the missiles, but because missiles are at the mercy of enemy location when it comes to the area of the map that they help you control, you can't even ensure that the enemies will be forced to go in a direction that allows your team to follow up. Also, you leaving the front lines basically means your team is down a player for a period of time while you use the missiles, making the advantage of using them on a frontline weapon fairly small. The only time you can really take advantage of missiles on K-Shot is if you can find safe cover that has a pretty close proximity to the fight, where you can launch missiles and engage the enemy as the missiles land. However, this may not always be possible depending on where the fight is and what map you're on, and like I mentioned before, there's still a risk of getting rushed down while you launch the missiles. Inkjet, on the other hand, is more suited for being aggressive and getting kills than missiles, because the user has a lot more control over it and doesn't have to leave the front lines to use it. While missiles don't allow you to control which direction the enemy retreats, Inkjet allows you to focus your fire on key points of the map to either force the enemy back or get a pick, which you have a much better chance of doing with Jet than with missiles, as it's less telegraphed and dependent on the user's skill with Inkjet. The better you are at using Inkjet, the more mileage you'll get out of the special. One argument that people make against Inkjet is that it's easy to shoot down, and ranged weapons have an easy time dealing with it. But the Inkjet has 6 lines of range and can outrange almost any weapon in the game. It is true that it's harder to confirm kills with the Inkjet the further you are away, but the opponent still has to respect it even at the tip of the range, and a max range inkjet still has a better chance of getting a kill than missiles. It is also true that in order to do this, you need to back up off the front lines a bit like you would with missiles. But at least an inkjet at long range can still apply significant pressure and a threat of death onto the enemies. Personally, I think part of the reason inkjet is looked down on nowadays is because people aren't willing to put in the work to get the most out of the special. If you want to get the most out of inkjet, you actually have to practice aiming with it in the training room and learn the different strafing techniques that allow you to be more unpredictable while using it. I won't go into detail in this video, but just know that they're out there. You have to treat inkjet like a main weapon in the sense that it requires a lot of practice and knowledge to use. But once you do learn how to use it, you'll be rewarded accordingly. Missiles, on the other hand, they have a super low skill ceiling and don't really require any practice to use. It makes sense that if someone didn't practice either inkjet or missiles, that they would believe missiles to be stronger on a splatter shot, because it is true that you get more out of missiles than inkjet if you're not very good at inkjet and don't practice using it. To sum everything up, the kit for the TTEK is much better suited for aggression. And while the K-Shots kit is by no means bad by itself, it just doesn't really complement the aggressive tendencies of the main weapon as well as the TTEK's kit does. In addition, the sub and the special of the TTEK have a lot more synergy than the K-Shots kit. Using splat bombs in combination with inkjet is very powerful and can help boost the effectiveness of your inkjets. K-Shot can't really use suctions or missiles to complement the other, because they're both very telegraphed and slow. One last thing I'd like to mention is that after the recent buff to inkjet, inkjet can two-shot a Tentabrella shield or a Splat Brella shield. Since the Brellas are some of the most difficult matchups for shooters in general, being able to destroy Tenta shields reliably is a big asset for the TTEK to have. If you play the K-Shot, I'm not saying you should stop playing it, but just consider some of the things I said, especially if you play multiple splatter shots and aren't sure when to use each variant. I do think the K-Shot is straight up better than the TTEK on a few maps where inkjet is simply not effective, most notably Blackbelly and Moray. But other than those few scenarios, I don't think playing TTEK over K-Shot is a downgrade by any means, and if you get really good at inkjet, it may just be an upgrade. Well, that's about all I have for this video. Remember, these are just my thoughts, and I don't claim to be in the right on everything, but this is how I view things, and I felt like I could provide some valuable insight on this topic. If you have any questions or comments about anything I said in this video, feel free to leave a comment or contact me on Twitter or Discord, which are both in the description. And yeah, that just about wraps things up for this video. I hope to see you guys next time.